Welcome to Echo No More, clear, credible, court-ready documentation in high-conflict parenting. No hype, no legal jargon, no drama. I'm Dr. James. If you're new here, I'm really glad you found this space. This podcast is for protective parents navigating high-conflict custody situations, especially when the other parent is manipulative, emotionally unsafe, or unpredictable. I'm not a lawyer, and this podcast isn't legal advice. What I am is a parent who has lived through this system, and someone whose attorneys over and over again told me the same thing. Your documentation is excellent. They told me it made their job easier. They told me it protected my credibility. And they told me it changed how my case was received. That's why I'm sharing this. Not to teach you how to fight, but how to document calmly, clearly, and in a way courts actually understand. This is parent to parent, calm, grounded, and focused on protecting your child without losing yourself. Today, I want to talk about something that almost every parent in a high conflict case relies on: digital evidence, text messages, emails, talking parents, our family wizard, voicemails, photos, screenshots, social media. It's amazing how much of modern family court revolves around our phones. And because digital evidence feels so concrete, parents often believe it's automatically powerful. I know I did. I remember thinking, I have the screenshots, I have the emails, I have the messages, surely that's enough. But one of the things I learned through years of litigation is that evidence isn't just judged by what's inside it. It's judged by how you handle it. That's a lesson I wish someone had taught me much earlier. One of my attorneys once told me something I'll never forget. She said, "Your documentation is excellent because I don't have to wonder where it came from." Think about that. Not because it was dramatic, not because there were hundreds of screenshots, because it was organized, consistent, credible, and that should be our goal. Not collecting everything, building trust. One of the biggest mistakes I see parents make is documenting from fear. They are terrified something will disappear, so they screenshot everything. Every text, every notification, every social media post, every email, every missed phone call. I understand that fear. I felt it too. When you're living through uncertainty, your instinct is to preserve everything, just in case. But eventually, that mountain of evidence becomes impossible to manage. And if it's impossible for you to manage, imagine what it's like for your attorney, or a judge, or a guardian ad litem. More evidence doesn't automatically create a stronger case. Better evidence does. One thing I became very intentional about was asking myself a simple question before saving something. Does this show a pattern, or does it simply upset me? Those aren't always the same thing. Some messages are emotionally painful but legally insignificant. Others seem ordinary on their own but become incredibly important because they repeat over time. Patterns matter more than drama. Another mistake parents make is editing screenshots, usually with good intentions: cropping, highlighting, adding arrows, drawing circles, zooming in. I understand why. You're trying to help someone see what you see. But remember what professionals are looking for: reliability. The more altered a screenshot appears, the more questions it creates, even if every word is accurate. And one thing I learned was to preserve the original first. Always. Then, if my attorney wanted something highlighted later, we could do that together. But the original remained untouched. That's incredibly important. Another lesson I learned involved context. Imagine someone sends one upsetting message. It's tempting to screenshot only that one sentence. But sometimes that single sentence doesn't tell the whole story. Professionals often want to understand the conversation around it. What happened before? What happened afterward? How did you respond? Sometimes your calm response says more about your credibility than the original message says about the other parent's behavior. That's worth remembering. Your evidence isn't only documenting someone else's action, it's documenting yours too. I also became careful about how I named files. Early on, I might have been tempted to save something as abusive text or proof he's lying. Now, I wouldn't do that. Instead, I would use something like text messages May 14th, 2026, or email exchange regarding parenting time. Simple, neutral, professional, because I don't need the file name to argue my case. The evidence should speak for itself. Another lesson that took me time to learn is that digital evidence isn't supposed to tell the whole story. Your documentation tells the story. Your screenshots support it. Think of it like building a house. Your documentation is the foundation. The screenshots are supporting beams. They are important, but they aren't the entire structure. One mistake I almost made several times was responding emotionally because I knew I had proof. I thought, they can't deny this. But here's what I eventually realized. The moment I send an emotional response, that response becomes part of the evidence too. Not just their message, mine. Every digital conversation tells two stories, the other parent's regulation and yours. Which story do you want the court to remember? One thing I often tell parents is this. Never write a message assuming only the other parent will read it. Write every message assuming a judge could read it 2 years from now. That one mindset changes everything. Your tone becomes calmer, your words become more intentional. You stop trying to win the conversation and you start protecting your credibility. Let's talk briefly about social media. Social media is probably the least reliable form of evidence because it changes constantly. Posts disappear, stories expire, privacy settings change, people delete things. That doesn't mean it's useless. It simply means it should be handled carefully and, honestly, very sparingly. I've also learned something that surprised me. Some of the strongest evidence I've ever had wasn't dramatic at all. It was boring, consistent, predictable, professional. A series of calm emails, a timeline, medical records, school communication, documentation that quietly reinforces the same pattern over and over again. Because professionals trust consistency, not excitement. Before we finish, I want to talk about something we don't discuss enough. Digital evidence can keep us emotionally stuck. I know there were periods where I found myself rereading painful messages over and over, looking for something I had missed, reliving conversations, feeling angry all over again. Eventually, I realized preserving evidence and reliving evidence are two different things. You only need to preserve it once. You don't need to revisit it every week. Your healing matters too. One of the healthiest habits I developed was saving the evidence where it belonged, documenting what I needed, closing the file, and going back to living my life. That's what we're trying to build, a documentation system that protects your case without consuming your peace. So, this week, I want you to look at how you're handling your digital evidence. Is it organized? Is it neutral? Could another professional understand it without you standing beside them explaining every screenshot? If the answer is yes, you're doing exactly what your documentation is supposed to do. Not shout, simply speak clearly. Because credibility isn't built by collecting the most evidence. It's built by preserving the right evidence in the right way. And that's something completely within your control.
Before we close, I want to remind you of something important. You don't need to document everything, you don't need to be perfect, and you don't need to convince anyone with emotion. Calm documentation is power. If this episode helped you, you will find a full structured system in my guide, Clear, Credible, Court Ready. It's designed to support, not replace, your attorney. And if you want help turning everything you're documenting into something organized and usable, you can visit www.economocoaching.org to download my guide on how to create a clear, court-ready documentation binder. Take what helps, leave what doesn't, and most of all, take care of yourself. I'll see you next week.